Hello, I am Meg Linehan and welcome to Full Time. It is just me today, so prepare yourselves. On this week's show, we are joined though by Becky Sauerbrunn, whose U.S. Women's National Team and NWSL career needs no introduction, but was recently announced by TNT Sports as joining the desk as a studio analyst for SheBelieves Cup, alongside the likes of Shannon Box, Julie Foudy, and Sarah Walsh. We're excited to get her thoughts on these matches for the U.S. Women's National Team and talk about her shift from the field to in front of the camera. Plus, Melanie Anzidei is in Houston for the Athletic for SheBelieves Cup, and she's going to hop on at the end of the show for some nuggets she's picked up from talking to the team and a little game that we've got brewing, thanks to our producer, Theo. All right, since it's just me at the start here today, let me give you a quick roundup of the news from across the world of women's football. First, let's check in on the English Women's Super League. On Sunday, in Manchester City's 4-0 win over Liverpool, there was a powerful moment when Bunny Shaw celebrated scoring by raising her fist into the air and performing the Black Power salute. The iconic gesture comes as a response to the Jamaican star being racially abused by fans on social media 2 weeks ago, and after she made the decision to not play in Manchester City's League Cup game against Arsenal. Now, while she did not directly mention her celebration after the match, she did tell Sky Sports after the game that it was good to get back on the score sheet after a difficult couple of days. Lots of action during this international break as well, but perhaps the tastiest matchup isn't actually happening at SheBelieves Cup. It's a 2023 World Cup final rematch between England and Spain in the UEFA Nations League. Chloe Kelly is back in the England squad after an injury to Beth Mead. Kelly had initially been left off Serena Wegman's 23-player Lionesses roster. Her return also coincides with an emotional deadline day move to Arsenal. Charlotte Harper can take you further inside that over at The Athletic. Not taking part in Spain's matches during this FIFA window is Jenny Hermoso. She was left out of Spain's squad for sporting reasons, said head coach Montse Tomé. She told media that the door is not closed for Hermoso to make a return to the national team. Hermoso has been at the center of the trial of Luis Rubiales, obviously, who on Thursday was found guilty in Spanish court of sexual assault for kissing Hermoso without consent after the 2023 World Cup final. Rubiales has been fined more than €10,000, about $11,400, but he will not go to prison. The prosecution had requested a 1-year prison sentence if the former head of the Spanish Football Federation was found guilty of sexual assault. The ruling from Spain's High Court bans Rubiales from going within 200 meters of Hermoso and from communicating with her for 1 year. He was also ordered to pay a further €3,000 for moral damages and half of Hermoso's legal costs. One other game that I don't think we're actually probably going to be able to watch here in the United States, but that is going to be of interest to NWSL fans, Zambia versus Malawi, is also set for this window, so that's going to give us a little taste of Barbara Banda, NWSL Championship MVP, versus Temwa Chawinga, League MVP on the international stage. Should be a fun one. Heading over to some major NWSL news, this week the league formally published its 2025 competition rules, which included the confirmation of the $3.5 million salary cap and a $550,000 net transfer budget. You can check out Taylor Vincent on Blue Sky and over on Sport Track, as she has a pretty solid breakdown of what's changed in the 2025 competition manual. Trust me, you do not want to read that one yourself. It is not worth your time. But if you do want to go in on all of the minutiae of NWSL rules, that will be on the show notes for you. Staying in the NWSL, the league's latest expansion team, set to start play in Denver in 2026, is calling on fans to help name the club. NWSL Denver released a short name of 6 club names that were based on feedback they've received from fans that attended their launch events in January. Those 6 names are, you ready for them? Denver Peak FC, Colorado 14ers FC, Colorado Summit FC, Denver Elevate FC, Denver FC, simple, Denver Gold FC. I like just one personal note from me, someone's got to be courageous enough to go back to SC for soccer club. We are in America. I just want to say, we got to throw it out there again. You can head to denvernwsl.com/name to cast your vote. You can also hit us up on social media or via email to let us know which one of those is your choice. If there's something better, you got to write in. They're also accepting those. Let us know what you've got cooking. Back into She Believes mode here, though, at the show. Now, again, last week, Jeff Ruder and I discussed the U.S. Women's National Team roster and a whole lot more. So if you need even more about this upcoming tournament, you can check out our feeds. But next up, the ledge, Becky Sauerbrunn. All right, Becky, let's start. First of all, how are you? I'm guessing you are in Houston right now.
Yeah, I am in Houston. I'm making my broadcast debut tonight. So got in yesterday, went to team training, and it's so weird being on the other side of things. But it was really lovely seeing a lot of the players that I've obviously played with for a bunch of years, and just kind of seeing how it works on the other side of it has been really fascinating. But yeah, it's a little intimidating too.
Yeah, I definitely we're gonna get into this because I am fascinated to hear about your journey. But first, I want to hear, you've joined the TNT crew. You're going to be working alongside, Foudy and Boxy and that crew for SheBelieves Cup. How did this happen? Was this something that you were looking for? Did they reach out to you? What was the like meet cute between you and TNT?
So Shaw Brown, as a producer, pretty well known in the soccer world, and he's kind of been in my ear about broadcasting for a few years. He's like, if you're not ready because you're still playing, we understand. But once you retire, like, we would really love if you could be involved. And so he had a bug in my ear for a while, and I was always kind of like, I don't know. Being in front of the camera has always been intimidating and a little like, I don't know, energy draining. So to actually actively choose this was a little bit of a surprise for me, but I feel like in my retirement journey, I'm kind of like, you need to find things to stretch yourself and maybe make yourself a little uncomfortable. And I mean, it is at the end of the day talking about soccer with some really cool people. So it seems like a great opportunity.
Yeah, I know you also just went to the boot camp that U.S. Women's National Team Players Association put together. What was that experience like? Do you feel like, okay, that was your like little training session in order to be able to do this?
It was definitely a boot camp. I mean, they threw us into absolutely every single type of medium that you can think of. I mean, we got there and within 5 minutes we were on the field doing sideline reporting, and we didn't know. We were like, don't you need to like instruct us a little bit or what? They're like, no, just get out there, take some reps, you'll get used to it. I'm really grateful for that. I thought it was an excellent program that USC put on. I'm really glad I did that. And I think it's made me a little bit more comfortable with this jump. But if I could do it all over again, I'd want that boot camp to be maybe like a week long so that I really could have gotten some more reps in.
You want like a summer camp, not necessarily a boot camp.
Yeah, I need an internship here.
That's fair. Obviously you've also been involved with Sam Mewis. I did wear the Vermont green, as that way we have the Sam Mewis connection right at the moment. But the podcast with the women's game, Good Vibes FC, do you feel like that has maybe also prepped you? But that, again, to your point, has kind of put you outside of the realm that you previously were in.
I absolutely think that that's prepped me. And even going into She Believes, we just dropped a podcast on Tuesday talking about She Believes. So it's like I'm already doing research and studying and everything. And it's been so helpful. And also, Sam and Lynn are very close friends. And so getting to talk about soccer with them is also just like so lovely.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like, okay, I want to do a ton of research heading in? Like, are you reading everything that you can get your hands on? What's the vibe there?
It has been information overload. I'm getting, game notes. I'm getting notes on every single player, on every single roster and pronunciations. And so I am a little overwhelmed, and everyone's like, well, you'll find your process. Initially it's going to be intimidating, but you'll figure out like how you need to do things and how much you need to study and when you need to study. So I obviously don't know that yet. So I'm just trying to take everything in. And so, yeah, I've watched a bunch of games. I've been reading a bunch. I've been asking so many questions to Sarah Walsh and Julie Foudy and Shannon Box and Melissa Ortiz, who have done this and have done it so well for so long. So yeah, information overload. But at the end of the day, I've played soccer for a really long time. I should know what I'm talking about. Who knows? We'll see.
I believe in you. I think you very much know what you're talking about. I do like one of the other things too that I think is really interesting. I've had this conversation with so many other former players, just like as they kind of make the jump into the media world. I mean, how do you address the fact that, to your point, you walk into camp, a whole bunch of people right now, right? How do you want to like bridge that line?
Are you talking about like if I have to be critical of some of these teammates?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just critical. It's just I think there is this sense of, there's always going to be the performance part, but there's also, I think, kind of the responsibility of you're telling other people's stories in some cases, and just I think that has come into play on the podcast too, right? In terms of like, how do you address certain things? Lynn's in a different spot because Lynn is still currently playing, right? So I think there is kind of this very interesting vibe of players coming into the space and figuring out, okay, how do I kind of like make sure that I'm doing right by everyone, but also by what I need to do as my job.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to rely on the relationships that I've built with a lot of these players. And if I feel like there's something that maybe is a little like, should I talk about this? Should I not? I'd probably just try to get their go ahead and see if they're comfortable with it or not. And I'd like to think that most of the players that I've played with and that know me know that I only want to do right by them and do right by the sport. So hopefully I've built up enough kind of social capital through the years where they can trust me to tell those stories, because I know that I will do my damnedest to make sure that I tell the story correctly and right. And it means a lot to me to keep these relationships strong, because I mean, I've gone through so much with a lot of these players. And I also understand that to grow the game, you need to be able to tell these stories. And so, yeah, I'm going to kind of have to figure it out as I go, I think.
Yeah. All right, one last one on this front. But do you feel like it's maybe made you reevaluate, as a player, your relationship to media? I mean, you were always one of the best talkers. Maybe like someone that didn't love it the way that, we put a microphone in front of Megan Rapinoe and she's going to go. But like, we always could count on you with a good, thoughtful quote. But has it made you kind of go back and think like, oh, okay, I see what that was?
I feel like I'm still kind of so new that I'm not even sure, but I've always had a very healthy respect for the media. And I know the importance of, if we really want to grow this game and make it the best it can absolutely be, we need the product on the field and we need the people telling the world about that product. And so I've always hopefully kept a good relationship with the media. And yeah, it's not something where, I want to be in the spotlight and I thrive in the spotlights like some of my teammates. But I definitely know the importance of the media.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about SheBelieves Cup for a little bit. I know that, again, you've already done this with Sam and crew over there, but I do obviously want to get your takes on, where this team is. I feel like we very much are in that kind of very start of the cycle. Olympics are done. We're 3 years out from a World Cup. But honestly, what do you want to see out of these 3 games for the U.S. Women's National Team?
I want to see a lot of experimentation. I want to see some debuts. I want to see different partnerships. And I think Emma's been emphasizing the fact that these first, 6 to 7 months, she is going to be doing those things. And to be able to do that like off the go against these quality opponents with the roster that she has, because you're missing some big names for sure. But it's really exciting for players to be getting those debuts and just kind of figuring out, when you throw them into the deep end, can they swim?
Right. I mean, these are also 3 teams that the U.S. Women's National Team knows pretty well. Colombia, obviously. Are you expecting maybe a little bit of spice in the Colombia match?
I expect spice in all the games, especially Colombia. I mean, you think back to the W Gold Cup, and there are a couple instances on the field, a couple crushing tackles where I was like, oh, she's not getting up. And then, of course, we pop right back up. But yeah, there's definitely a long history with us playing Colombia. And of course, it's always going to be feisty. These are not never friendlies, ever, never friendlies.
All right, so we've got these 3 games. Are there any particular players, for me, right at the moment, looking at Kat Macario, for instance, coming back into this squad, again, for kind of like her 3rd reintroduction with the U.S. Women's National Team, but like beyond Kat, maybe, is there 1 or 2 players that you're looking at in particular and being like, this is your chance to like really put your name in Emma Hayes' book?
Yeah, I'm intrigued with Allie Sentnor. I think she had a fantastic season with Utah, obviously great with the youth national teams. And so seeing her at this level and what she's able to do, she's great with her feet. She can break pressure. She can drive with the ball. She's got one of the best shots. I mean, I took one to the stomach during season, and I think I was down for like maybe 5 minutes. No air in the lungs. So Sentnor is someone I'm really interested in. And obviously Lily Johannes, making the decision to be with the Federation, the U.S. Federation, and really seeing her and getting her more time on the field and how she connects with the other midfielders and links up with the forwards. So I'm intrigued if she gets time, how she's going to do.
Yeah. The other part of SheBelieves Cup, and I feel like you're maybe one of the most perfect people I could ask this question to, but, I think about the equal pay, the inside out shirts, right? I think about the protests that were happening in Texas a couple of years ago with the wristbands that said protect trans kids. So many of the leaders of this team from like the generation I associate, right? Of you, Rapinoe, Alex, that group have departed. And I think this is a team that's still trying to figure out not only its identity on the field, but its identity off the field and some of those issues. What do you think this team needs maybe to gel in figuring out where they want to pick those moments if She Believes, kind of continues in that tradition of these games somehow always end up being a platform for something bigger than the team, it seems like.
Yeah, they really do. And I think when you lose those kind of voices in these really critical and important spaces, it takes a little bit of time for the players that are still current to figure out, like, can I step into this space? Am I comfortable stepping into this space? And I think there are definitely players on this roster that are able to do that. Right off the bat, I think of Tierna Davidson. I think I would trust her to talk about absolutely anything. And she's so well spoken and she's thoughtful. And so it does usually happen around She Believes. And I do think that there will be things and topics and issues that will galvanize this group and they'll feel an impetus to step up and speak about things. And yeah, it's, having been one of those players, it is intimidating and it can be scary, but you also know the critical importance of doing those things and using this platform. And so there are players on this roster who absolutely will step into that space when necessary.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see that.
Same.
Just in terms of what you're looking for from these other three teams, because, the U.S. are in this year where they don't really necessarily have a major tournament that they're thinking about. Qualifiers are still a little ways out. Emma Hayes has probably the closest she'll ever get to having less pressure. I won't say no pressure, but less pressure. But that's not necessarily the case for Colombia, Australia, and Japan, who are all thinking about their upcoming qualifiers and other important tournaments for them. Is there one team in particular that you're thinking about? Is there a player that you're excited to see in person from, a different vantage point than on the field?
Yeah, I think with Colombia, it's this team that have surprised a lot of other top 20 teams. And we got to speak with the coach yesterday, and he was saying we need to be playing more teams in this top 20 because we are in games until the last couple of minutes, and then we give up a few goals. Like if you think back to playing Spain where they were up 2-0 and then give up 2 goals, wind up losing in PKs. Like they had that game. They wind up beating Germany. They play the Brazils and they lose barely. And so it's really for Colombia, like figuring out how to win these matches against top teams. And when they figure that out, that is a scary thought.
It's going to be really fun to watch. I mean, Colombia is one of you think about Lacey Santos with Washington Spirit, right? Like seeing
Linda Caicedo.
Like totally. Like the talent that they have on the ball too is just like, it's really, really fun to watch. So yeah, I'm excited for the Colombia game. I'm personally looking forward to US versus Japan because that always feels like one of the best chess matches that we could get. And I think with a younger crew, it's going to be really interesting to watch and see how much Emma allows them to problem solve in real time. What are you thinking about that one?
I agree. It's definitely a chess match. And for me, it's seeing these players make adjustments. And it doesn't even have to be a tactical adjustment. It can just be for them a technical adjustment or body positioning, and then figuring it out in game as it goes. Okay, I just got an overload on my side. How do I bring another player over to help solve these things? So seeing players communicate and really try to solve that when you play Japan is probably the most important, is the organizational on the defense.
Yeah, totally. All right, Becky, I would be an idiot to not ask you this before we let you out of here, but what are you reading right now? Any good book recs for folks?
I did the sensational Onyx Storm and read that just because, if everyone's reading it, I also need to read it. And and then I've I kind of go in and out about reading and sometimes shows or video games. And recently I've been watching shows and I started ER for the first time. I never watched it when I was younger. And I've been watching The Pit on Max.
Yep.
And I was like, you know what? I kind of want to watch something similar to this. And so why not ER? And it's been fantastic. I'm just completely binging it.
It is. I mean, like, that's an all-time classic. Do you have a fave doctor, fave nurse?
Oh, man. I mean, I do like Noah Wiley's character in ER just because you get to see him as like the established doctor in the pit. But seeing him as that like first or second year med student and just being this
Yeah.
like frat guy, it's pretty funny.
No, it's definitely a good one. I just reread Station 11 earlier this month.
Great. Yeah.
Which is
great
like one of
book.
my all-time favorites, but I'm watching the TV show now and I'm like, have you seen the adaptation?
I have not seen the show, but I've read the book.
Okay. The TV show is very different. I just want to warn you. If you go into it, like my wife and I just keep looking at each other and being like, what is happening right now?
Was this in the book? It's not in the book.
It's not very much not in the book. So, but that's another, if you want another TV, it's not bad. It's just very different. So I think if you have some distance from reading the book, it might actually help you a little bit because right at the moment we're like too close to it. So,
Yep.
but that would be we're also watching Paradise on Hulu, which is a ride. I think you would enjoy it.
I've heard things about it, but I have not yet found myself in that world yet.
Yeah. If you watch it, I want your takes on it. You got to
Okay.
check back in because it is a ride. All right. So that's your maybe your airplane entertainment over the next couple of days as you bounce around with the U.S. Women's National Team.
Oh, for sure. I'm gonna need some things to kind of bring myself back down to equilibrium after this broadcasting stuff. Because it is a bit intimidating. It's been really fun and everyone's been really great. But wow, sometimes you just gotta binge ER on a plane.
Yep, that's how it goes. All right, Becky. Well, we cannot wait to see you back on TV in whatever form it takes. Very excited for you. We hope you kill it. And thank you so much for joining the show.
Thanks, Meg. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, I am now joined by the Athletics' Melanie Anzidei, who is in Houston for the Athletic covering SheBelieves Cup. First of all, Melanie, how are you? How is Houston treating you so far?
I am well. It is cold. I was not prepared for this. I brought my heavy duty Under Armour jacket just in case, thank God. But yeah, it's pretty cold. But warmer than Jersey.
That is fair. Also, we just got a good foot of snow up in Burlington, so again, I can't comprehend being at a soccer game yet. But I wanna start with just what the vibe has been like in Houston. Obviously, the joys of match day -1, seeing Emma Hayes, the players. What did you get out of what you've seen so far?
Yeah, so I think it's a lot of what we've been talking about with the national team. This development era that the team is in. Emma Hayes spoke with reporters for maybe 15 minutes, and she talked a lot about how this tournament for them will be to kind of evaluate players. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to have a spot on the team. It just means maybe where do you stand on the level of progression, because she spoke very much about, this isn't just we're preparing for the tournament, we're preparing for the next 1 to 5 years and looking ahead. And she really pushed about trying to create this pipeline of, in the U.S. Women's National Team pipeline that, the under 23 and the youth development. And I think I'm very excited that we're finally going to get to see this in action. We've been talking about this a lot, so it'll be good to see this in these next 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like a very long time since we've actually seen this team on the field. And, January camp, it, in the end, didn't even have a media availability coming out of it with the players got postponed. So, yeah, I think there is this real sense of okay, let's just finally kind of see some. Do you have the sense of maybe there is kind of like a throw it against the wall and see what sticks? Or is there maybe more of a plan than maybe some of us are expecting for these 3 games?
I want to say, so there's something she said that stuck out to me, was something about how it might not be that polished, but to trust her because she's done this before, kind of trust the process, as she said, even I think in the early days of her coming on, right? I think that's something that she repeated a lot. But she did say, I've been doing this for a long time. It worked at Chelsea. It worked in my experiences. So just, trust the process. So I think it might be some, fun to see what happens on the field. I like chaos, so I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, I think people also need to remember that it's February right at the moment, too. A lot of these players are in preseason. Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, actually, I know Crystal Dunn had some extensive time with media on Wednesday. What came out of what she said?
Yeah, so she opened up about, leaving Gotham. That was an unexpected off-season move, as we've had many. And she did talk about how it was not an easy decision for her. Of course, at this late stage in her career, it wasn't like where you have a Jenna Knight-Swanger who might be going for the experience of being in Europe. She's been in Europe. She's played for Chelsea. Mm-hmm. So was a decision. I'm sure we'll be hearing more about some of the behind the scenes as the season goes on. But she did talk about, how emotional and how hard it was for her. But she is, happy about the new challenge, about being in Europe, about being at PSG. And, she did play over the weekend. So hopefully we'll see more of that too.
Yeah. I know we're obviously more focused on the U.S. women's national team than these three other countries, but it is kind of an interesting time for all three of these. I mean, Linda Caicedo, obviously in town for Colombia, but I also think about Australia, and I know that you're kind of going to be probably talking to Australia a little bit as the tournament goes on. What do you think some of these other teams are hoping to get out of SheBelieves Cup so that we can maybe step outside our little American-centric view for a second?
Yeah, it's so interesting because when you look at it from the perspective of the U.S. women's national team, they're developing, they don't have a tournament on the horizon, but these other teams very much do have something to compete for. I mean, Copa America is something that Colombia, for example, has to think about. So for them, they're probably not going to be coming out as, risking a lot of things. They're probably going to be coming out to win this game in a way that I think for them will be, of course, the U.S. is the team you want to, challenge and practice with. Australia, of course, it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. Of course, Sam Kerr isn't on the roster, but she's very much the heart of the team. So I'm sure her absence will be felt. I'm sure there'll be discussions about, the verdict and, her exoneration, so to speak. So I'm curious to hear what they have to say about all of that. And, the coaching change, the early exit out of Paris, all those things, I think. And for Japan, I'm also, Australia preparing for the Asian Cup that they'll be hosting. Japan also part of that, automatically qualified. I'm just very excited to see how Japan does because, they are probably the most patient team in the world. And I'm very excited to see how that balances with, the U.S. women's national team and, the rematch of the Paris Games.
Yeah, I mean, for Japan, too, with some of the influx of players into the NWSL, I think this is maybe a little bit of a more interesting matchup. Japan is always such a great game for the U.S. I mean, they've been some of the most, instant classics I've ever been at. But, yeah, I mean, three very different teams. I think three teams that you know what you're getting into for all three of those games. So it is going to be really interesting to watch. And I think this is maybe a perfect time for us to summon our producer, Theo, because he has come up with a little game for us to play. So, Theo, if you want to hop in here and tell us what's about to happen.
Hello, Genie in a Bottle. I'm here. Yes, it's an easy game. I thought it was the best way for us to prime, get the listener ready about how we're feeling about the SheBelieves Cup by asking Melanie and Meg, very simply, do you believe? What do you believe? Does she believe? We're about to find out. So, I'm just going to ask you a question, and you just got to be honest with me. Do you believe in the statement? Or, does she not believe in the statement? That's what we're trying to get to the heart of. So I'm going to ask you some US Women's and some SheBelieves Cup themed questions, and you'll give me your expert answers. Easy enough? We got it?
Think so.
All right, let's get to it. Melanie, I want you both to answer, but let's let Melanie, as the guest, go first on this one. Melanie, Emma Hayes has never lost a match as a USA Women's head coach. 13 wins, 2 draws in her time. Will she lose her first ever match as USA head coach at the SheBelieves Cup? What do you believe?
She believes. She believes there will be a loss. So, like I said, I like chaos, and I feel like we're going to see some of that.
Unbelievable. Meg?
I am leaning SheBelieves as well, just because I do think we're going to see so much rotation in these games that it feels kind of inevitable that the result to me here is not the priority.
Looking at we just talked a little bit about those teams, but, USA has never lost to Colombia in their history. I think they just have one defeat to Japan, and obviously the 2011 final was a shootout, so that's sort of a draw or a defeat depending how you look at it. And I think there's a defeat to Australia in 2017 if the records are treating me right. Do you have, either of you, a feel for which of the three teams might be an L, or are you just saying one across the week?
I very excited to see Colombia and the U.S. women's national team, just because, I mean, I was there at the World Cup when Colombia beat Germany, and there's just something about this team that they are the underdogs in a lot of these games, but they do show up. And I think because they are competing, for the Copa America so soon, they are, and like Mike said, this is a team that's going to be risking a lot of things. And so I feel like if any team could come out with a surprise, I think it might be that game. Not to say that Japan isn't capable either, or Australia. I just have this feeling of that grittiness that we might see at the Colombia game. So.
Yeah, for me, it's Japan right at the moment. I just think they're so structured and so disciplined, and I can see them really containing the U.S. if the U.S. is not in a starting 11 that feels familiar. That's a really hard team to figure things out live against. And I mean, and to be fair, it's not the same roster as that Japan team that like absolutely throttled Spain in the 2023 World Cup, but like that is also very much in the back of my mind.
Well, there you go. She believes. We might see an upset at the SheBelieves Cup. That's a very spicy way to get things going. All right. Another statement for you. Do you or do you not believe Kat Macario is primed to finish as the SheBelieves 2025 MVP? She was previously the MVP in 2022, if you remember, after 2 goals and an assist against Iceland. But making a comeback from injury this year, will she be the MVP? Meg, let's go to you first. Does she believe?
She believes, but also it's the vibe is she hopes.
She hopes. Okay.
Yeah.
Any more to add to that on Kat?
I mean, I think she's absolutely like capable of being the MVP. It really is still a matter of like, is she at form? She's got to work her way back into this team and kind of get a vibe for it again. So like, is this within the realm of possibility for me? 100%. Do I think it is like absolutely, is she the statistical leader to be it? Probably not. That's why like the vibe is she believes with a large dash of she hopes.
Melanie, do you believe?
She believes it's also possible. I agree very much with Meg, because I do think that Emma Hayes has said that she is going to be risking, she's going to be rotating. Of course, Kat Macario is a proven, she's proven herself on this pitch, on this field with this team. She's very familiar with Emma, as we all know. So will they risk potential? Like, we'll see what happens. But I do think that it is very much possible.
All right. Next one. At the SheBelieves Cup 2025, Orlando Pride centre-back Emily Sams cements her place as a starting centre-back next to Naomi Goma, who is not available due to injury. But over the course of this next week, we see Emily Sams step above the likes of Tiana Davidson, Emily Sonnet. Melanie, we'll go to you first. Does she believe?
She believes. I think this is one of the things where she has that momentum right now, and I think she'll keep up with that. And I don't think I think it's because of the opportunities being presented, and I think Emma has emphasized who's going to take that opportunity. I feel like she will step up to the plate, so I will say that.
Meg?
For me, it's she does not believe, but not because I don't believe in Emily Sams. It's because I don't believe anyone's going to like cement a starting 11 place in this tournament. Just in terms of where this team is, it's February, it will be early March, right? I don't think anybody's locking in a starting 11 position beyond the likes of, Naomi Gurma is Naomi Gurma.
Right.
And no one is at that level, I think, even a Tierney Davidson or an Emily Sams. So again, it's not anything against Emily Sams. It's just more where we're at in the cycle.
To continue that metaphor, if Hayes is putting the bricks together, what is she using right now if she's not using cement?
Play-Doh.
Play-Doh. So Emily Sams could Play-Doh her way into the centre-back position. That's what I'm hearing. All right, I got one more fun one for you. We're hearing a lot about Colombia. Melanie, you're vibing with Colombia. Look, we're all vibing with Colombia. Great fans, great team, preparing for Copa America. Last time these two teams met at the W Gold Cup 2024, we saw some, I don't even know if I can say it on the pod, blankhousery, if you like, listener. You can fill in the blank there. A fracas, some beef, got a little bit heated. We know this Colombia team likes to wind up the opposition. In that game, it was Alex Morgan and Trinity Roman getting wound up by Catalina Uzme and Jorin Karalabali. Who are the USA players, or do you think USA players, and if so, which ones, will get wound up against the Colombia team on Thursday night? Meg, we'll go to you first. Do you believe the USA players are going to get wound up?
She believes. I feel like, yeah, right? I do think probably the most likely candidates is someone younger that's maybe not used to the physicality, but also, I think it is obligatory. It's going to be Emily Sonnet's 100th cap. I'm probably stealing Melanie's fire here. But, I think everybody is looking at that and just being like, I would like to see it. Let's find out what happens.
We believe Emily Sonnet is going to get a little spicy. Melanie, what are you feeling? Do you believe in a little bit of spice in the USA-Colombia game?
She believes it will be spicy. 100%. I don't know specifically who. When you said Emily Sonnet just now, I thought of the meme of her, at the Washington Spirit at Gotham game, the spiciness there, right? We saw. Obviously, a lot of the players, there's a lot of injuries on the roster. Maybe some people who are not here, I would expect to get spicy.
Yeah.
But I think it's a mind game that Colombia will probably try to play. It's just a matter if the U.S. will bite or if they will fall into it. Maybe they're warned ahead of time not to. We'll see.
Well, there you go. That was this year's Does She or She Not Believe the game. I'm sure it will come back, and maybe in a different vision, different moniker. But thank you both for playing, and I very much believe in you after all that. So let's have a great week and enjoy the matches.
Thanks, Melanie. Did you know that The Athletic has partnered with Yahoo Sports to provide free, best-in-class coverage of women's sports? You can check out the Women's Sports Hub at sports.yahoo.com/women-sports. And we've got that link for you in the show notes because that's way easier. My name is Meg Linehan, and you have been listening to Full Time with a whole lot of me today. Our thanks to Becky Sauerbrunn and to Melanie Anzidei for their time, and we hope that you all are going to enjoy this international break. If you want continued endless snow content from Vermont, plus all the work stuff, I'm on Instagram and Blue Sky. If you want to hit us up with questions, comments, whatever you want to send us, you can email us at fulltime@theathletic.com. Fulltime doesn't happen without podcast producer Theo Lloyd Hughes, video producer Leah Griffin, and our executive producer Emily Olson. And just as a quick programming note before we get out of here, we're going to probably be dropping our next episode next Thursday a little bit late again, just because of that real SheBelieves Cup After Dark energy of the final game of the tournament. But we promise it's going to be worth the wait. I'll be needing so much coffee though myself. All right, until next week, see you next Thursday.